Hi, it's me again. Okay, so Mersenne came out last week, and somebody asked me what the difference is between this and the other two ice gear synths, Laplace and Lorentz, which are both also resonator synthesizers in their own way. So I was just going to go through all three and try and explain what's going on in each of them. So this is Mersenne, this is the latest of the three, and this is the Mersenne default preset when you go into the synthesizer. Now I'm going to make the stuff a bit easier, I'm going to turn off all the effects in the effects section, and I'm also going to take the rather rash move here of getting rid of all the resonator section. Let's just assume for a moment that the resonator is just another effect. So what do we have left here? Well, what we've got are two FM synths and a noise generator. So I'm going to just mute the bottom FM synth and the noise generator for the moment. The synths themselves, the FM synths, are virtually identical. The only difference is that one of them, the top one here, has this drive, and the bottom one has a delay, which I'll explain in a second. So if I just play the top one we've got here, so what we have is a simple FM synth. FM synthesis, as you probably know, is where you have a sine wave that's modulated by another sine wave and possibly by another, and those I suppose you can call them oscillators, are referred to as operators in the FM synth world, and I'm not quite sure how many there are here, but I'm suspecting about 3. So we've got a tone generator at the beginning here, and I've got pitch and envelope, and I can mess around with the envelope here, so I can have the note changing as it comes in, which is very much like a drum synth. Anyone who does any kind of drum synthesis knows that with a kick drum you have an envelope, and the speed that you decay back down to the original note or your bass note really gives you the kick at the beginning of the kick drum. Similar kind of idea here, because this is meant to be a percussion synth, and so that bend is important at the beginning of the note. After that, we've got this sustain and attack. Now, if I listen to the noise here, that's my basic sine wave. To my DX11 ears, it sounds like adding this sustain is simply adding a second operator in on the sustained note, and this attack here appears to be adding a third operator in at the beginning of the note. So, as with any FM synthesis, the more you add the second and third operators in, the harsher the sound is. And then we've got here the amp level, the amp section, which is the overall decay and sustain and damper of the resulting sound. So it's a very simple envelope generator. It's just a decay effectively, and you've got a damper that allows you to cut the sound off. Okay, so that's the top one. The second one here is exactly the same, except I've got this bit here where I can delay the sound. So if I turn up full, you'll get the idea. You hear that? The second tone B is coming in about a beat after the first. So that's what the delay does. It allows you to slightly offset the second tone. And so you mix these tones together in whatever proportion you want to get the sound you're after. Let's have less of that one and then more of this one. And then this third one here is just a noise generator. It's literally creating white noise, which you're passing through a filter with a cutoff to get the sound you're interested in. So let's turn this up. Okay, and then we have all three tones together. Once we've got these three tones, we can send them into the resonator, and each of them can get sent in separately into the resonator, and so we've got a wet and dry mixer for each. And then it's a question of dealing with the resonator, which is effectively a global effect that you can apply in varying amounts to each of these three tones, and that is Mersenne in a nutshell. So on to the next oldest, which is Lorentz, the middle of the three. And again, we've got this resonator. We can treat the whole of this bottom section here as just effects. So I'm going to turn off the chorus and delay and the low pass filter there. And this is the amp with my velocity and volume, that's fine. The resonator, we can just treat this again as a resonator effect. I mentioned in one of my previous articles how a resonator is effectively just a very fast delay with a filter on the delaying signal to give it some shape and feeling. So let's turn that off as well. So what do we have left once you get rid of the resonator and all the effects in Lorentz? Well, you have a simple LFO and a simple envelope. Then you have this oscillator section, which has turn them all off for now. We've got a saw, which is obviously more than one saw because you can detune it. So 2 or 3 saws there probably. Then you've got this pulse section, which is a square wave, which you can modify with pulse wave modulation. And that can be modified by the LFO or the envelope as well. So if I then we have a square wave sub oscillator, and we have a noise generator, which is a simple low pass filter on it. So these can be combined in any combination to create a tone. And then we have high pass and low pass filters, shelf filters by the looks of it. So the high pass here, I can knock the top end off the signal. Sorry, the bottom end of the signal. I can knock the bottom end of the signal, leaving just the top end behind. The low pass here, I can remove the bottom end, the top end of the signal. And I've got the frequency here, which is effectively the cutoff for another synth, and I've got resonance here. And we can affect the cutoff using any of these modifiers. It's quite nice, actually, I think. So it's basically a subtractive synth. It's a subtractive analog type synth. But with, unlike most analog synths, we've got 2 filters we can apply at the same time. We can have the high pass filter and the low pass filter, and we can modify the low pass filter. And then that all goes into the resonator. Or if we like, we can make it go into the resonator first before the filter. Something like that. Okay. And that's Lorentz. And finally we've got Laplace, which everyone insists on calling Laplace. But in my mind will always be Laplace. So there we are. Okay, so Laplace is the oldest of the 3. And this is the simplest in many ways. This is very similar to the middle section in Z-Synth, which I also put in an article a few weeks back, and I might make a video of shortly. Okay. So what we have here is, again, I'll turn off all the effects again because they don't help understand what it's doing. Okay. Now I can't really get rid of the resonator here, but I am going to. We've got a resonator and we've got this little FM synthesizer here, and you can have one or the other or both mixed into your output. But I'm going to turn both of those right off for the moment and leave behind the original signal. So the original signal comes in 2 parts. we've got a click making machine and a noise making machine. And we can mix between those two. So if I go back to the click here, this is my click making machine. And there are various ways of colouring what is basically just a click tone, which again sounds like FM synthesis to me, almost certainly. And then if I go over to the noise section, this is a noise generator which has a simple envelope, and it has a low pass filter and a high pass filter in it, so you can tune your noise to the sound that you want, and you can mix these together to produce an output, and then that it gets fed into the resonator section, or now I don't know if this FM section is actually influenced at all by the outputs of the exciter section. I think it's just a tone that gets mixed in, and how pure or how agitated this tone is based upon how you mess around with the FM synthesis. It sounds like a 2-operator FM synth to me, so the more that you modify the carrier signal by the modifier signal, the more discordant you're going to get the sound. So that's great for sort of metallic, clangy sounds. And then over on the other side, we've got the resonator. And the resonator has its own pitch envelope, but really, you've got two types of resonator here. One which seems to be more of a skin or string resonator, and another one which is resonating some other subtly different way. And then you can just mess around with how you want the resonator to sound here. So that's it really. If you think of all three of these synths as being completely different synths, but with a resonator effect section in, Laplace is actually the most different of the three, in that it has this pure noise making exciter, a resonator, and then a mixed in FM synth tone that you can go with that you can bring into the output. The other two, one is a subtractive analog synth with a resonator effect on the output, and one is a fairly interesting FM synth that is geared towards making short percussive sounds, and also with a resonator effect on the output. I hope that helped. Bye.